Hi guys, today we're going to go through what is probably my biggest book haul yet. I haven't counted how many books there are in these several piles, and frankly I am scared to because then I think I would be forced to admit that I have a problem, but this is several months worth of book buying, gifts from Christmas, special edition box subscriptions, so it has added up over time. These are not all recent buys. I think this goes back to like October at least, so let's get into it. I'm going to start off with books that I received for Christmas, starting off with a couple that I got from my dear friend Jose. One of them is Cat Stories, which is a selection of short stories. It includes short little stories from Edgar Allan Poe, Neil Gaiman. I believe there's an Ursula K. Le Guin story in here. So this is really cute. I kind of want to put this like on my bedside table and maybe read like a story a night or something. I think that would be manageable, but I love cats and I thought this was a really sweet gift. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Next up is Better Than Fiction by Alexa Martin. I believe this is about a woman who prefers movies over reading, but then she inherits a bookshop and romance ensues with a bookworm, which just sounds so cute. I had not even heard of this book before I received it for Christmas, so I don't know, I thought that was really sweet, and I'm really looking forward to reading this one maybe next month in February. I feel like it'd be a good romance for that, and I love a book about books and the love of reading, and I love a cute romance, and I just think this is going to check all the boxes for me. Then I got a couple graphic novels from my boyfriend Zach, first up being Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo. This is a graphic novel adaptation of a short story that has already been out there for a while, but this is sort of about the Darkling's early years as a teenager, before the Grisha were more accepted in Ravka, and how him and his mom had to travel around undercover and hide their powers, and it was a really good story. I've already read this one, and the artwork was beautiful. I think if you are a fan of the Grishaverse or Leigh Bardugo, it's definitely worth picking up. And I was really excited to get this for Christmas, so thank you, Zach. He also got me volume 3 of Lore Olympus, which is another graphic novel series that I really enjoy. I have been reading this on Webtoon. I do want to go back and read it in the print format, because I think it's really well suited for it, honestly, and I just love the artwork style of this. I love a Hades Persephone retelling in general, but I think the webcomic and now regular comic format is a really good medium for this story, and the artwork is just so expressive, and I love this series so much, so I'm really excited to add this to my collection. Then from my mom, I got the next few books in the Witcher series in hardcover. So last year I got The Last Wish, which is the first short story collection, and that one was an illustrated edition, and they've since come out with an illustrated edition of the second collection of short stories. This one is Sort of Destiny, and this one has Yennefer on the cover. I'm really excited to see what the illustrations and stuff are in this one as well. The last ones were absolutely beautiful. And then I have the first 2 full-length novels in the series. Orbit just released a new set of hardcovers for this book series, and I am so thrilled because I've been wanting to collect this one for a while and read my way through it, but I was really resistant to getting the video game cover paperbacks. I feel like such a snob, but I do prefer hardcover over paperback in general, and if I can avoid it, I usually try to avoid the movie and video game tie-in covers of books or book series, so I'm so thrilled. The artwork is gorgeous on all these hardcovers. This one's Blood of Elves, and this one is Time of Contempt, and they all feature, I believe, different artists, but all of them are just so beautiful, and I think it fits the world really well, and it just makes me so much more excited to dive into this series. So thank you, Mom, for getting me the next 3 books in the series, and I can't wait to dive in. Now I'm going to dive into mostly Fairy Loot special editions. There is an Owl Crate set in here, though. That was like a one-off, not part of their monthly subscriptions. And these aren't in any particular order. I don't remember which ones are for which months. They've just been ones that I've been piling in my haul pile that I haven't gotten to yet, for the most part, with, I don't want to say one exception, 2 exceptions, I suppose. So first up is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This edition is stunning. I do prefer the artwork on the self-published edition of this book. I think it's so much more gothic and just draws the eye. But if I was gonna have the new hardcover, I think this is the version to have. I mean, just like look at these sprayed edges with like the brocade pattern. It's so pretty. I think it speaks to the mood of the story very well. This is a Dracula's Bride retelling with a sapphic lean, and I believe it's like an epistolary novel, so it's all written in like letters. I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong about that. I haven't read this one yet. I'm very excited to. I'm hoping this next spooky season will be the time for me to get into this one. I've heard excellent things. Like, I don't think I've seen a single bad review for this one, honestly. I've seen a couple, like, this wasn't for me, but, like, they recognize that it's a well-written, beautiful book. And so I'm just really thrilled because I love a gothic romance, and I just can't wait to get to this one. The one Fairy Loot book in this pile that I have already read is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I'm pretty sure this was actually the December adult pick. That's the only one I think out of this that I remember. But this was such a charming story, and I'm so thrilled that Fairy Loot picked it up. I love the sprayed edges. The artwork on the end papers is stunning. I love character artwork. Like, that's probably my favorite customization in a special edition, is to either have it on the end papers or on like the reverse side of the dust jacket. I just love being able to like visualize these characters, and I think like the artwork can really help set the tone for the story as well. And I love this edition so much. This story was a 5-star read for me. It's the exact type of fairy story that I love. And I just think the Fairy Loot edition suits it really well. I will say I do also like the US edition. That doesn't always happen. This is a customization on the UK edition, but both covers are really pretty and I think suit the story very well. So Heather Fawcett got really lucky, I think, getting 2 really excellent covers. These next couple, I'm not quite sure how I feel about. They are part of the Fairy Loot subscription, and I don't think I've ever skipped a month. Maybe I should, but first up is Poster Girl by Veronica Roth. This is the same author that did the Divergent series, which I did read when I was a teenager, and I liked the first 2 quite a bit. We don't talk about Allegiant in this household, but I've yet to read an adult book by her. And dystopian's not typically my thing, but I'm willing to give it a chance, especially with how short it is. This book is about, again, like a dystopian society, and this woman was like the poster girl for the propaganda that the government has used to like spread misinformation and stuff, and like this deals with how she reconciles with that, I think. And she's been imprisoned for 10 years, so I think she breaks out, and it explores the expanding role of surveillance on society and the inescapable reality that we welcome all too easily. So I'm intrigued. This isn't like the top of my TBR, but I'll get around to it eventually. And I do wish the blue went all the way around on this edition. It's kind of weird to me that it's like just the long edge that has the stenciled artwork, but oh well. Then we have The Ones We Burn by Rebecca Mix. I do really like the sprayed edges on this one. The orange to the black ombre is really stunning in my opinion. And I don't know a lot about this one other than I believe it's sapphic, and there was a lot of controversy about it a few months ago. This only recently actually came out, but when it was still like in its arc phase, there was some discourse about it on Twitter and sort of the representation it had and the underlying subtext it had about both like black people and Jewish people or Jewish coded people. So I'm a little hesitant about this one. Of all the Fairy Loot books I think I should have skipped, I probably should have skipped this one just because I'm like not very excited to read it, but now that I have it, I will give it a chance. I don't know. I feel very mixed on this one. But yeah, so I'll give it a chance. It is a very pretty edition. This one does have artwork, both character artwork on the end papers and on the reverse side of the dust jacket as well. So cool customizations on Fairy Loot's part, but I do wish they had gone, oh my gosh, it's even on the it's foiled on the hardcover too. I do wish they had gone with a different book just because this one had so much controversy really early on. This next one I'm actually very excited to read, and that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I don't know a lot about this other than I think it deals with like card magic, and apparently it's excellent. I've seen rave reviews about this. I've seen this as like people's favorite book of the year. I think regular sprayed edges can be just as gorgeous as stenciled edges. I think this color is stunning and not one we see on special editions a lot, so I love it. But yeah, this book, I think the protagonist is like infected by magic or something, which like you're supposed to be put to death or imprisoned if that happens to you, but her and her family, I guess, keep it a secret to try to cure her. This one also has like excellent character artwork on the end papers and on the reverse side of the dust jacket. The naked hardcover is really pretty. As far as a special edition goes, this is stunning in my opinion. And yeah, I'm really excited to read this one. It gives me fall vibes, so I think that's probably when I'll pick it up, hopefully this year. I'm trying to like stay caught up on Fairy Loot books, but it's so hard. But yeah, so excited to get to this one eventually. This next book I have never heard of, but it came in a box that was themed like very circusy. It had like Night Circus and Caraval items, I believe, in it. And it is called Cruel Illusions by Maggie Fuston. And this is a completely redesigned cover with really pretty digitally printed edges. So there's like roses all around it. Really stunning edges for sure. I don't love the dust jacket. I actually kind of prefer both the US and the UK covers to just like the black and red foiling. I think it's kind of hard to read. I don't know, it's not my favorite, but it does have like a mood to it for sure. But yeah, this is about vampires, and I think our main character is a vampire hunter because a vampire killed her mom. I have no idea what like the circus lean is to this. Okay, she stumbles across a hidden magic show where she witnesses impossible illusions. The magicians may not be the bloodsuckers she's hunting, but she's convinced that something supernatural is afoot. Okay, there's a lot going on. It says it's Caraval meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so I'm intrigued for sure. Once again, a very fall-leaning book that I'll probably pick up later this year. But yeah, I hope it's good because it's very pretty. And then the last Fairy Loot book I have in this pile actually isn't part of the monthly subscription. It's the sequel to the Atlas 6, the Atlas Paradox, by Olive E. Blake. This literally just came in the mail today. But this one has really beautiful digitally printed edges as well. The red goes all the way around, which that's what I prefer. And once again, very pretty edition. I like the character artwork on the end papers. The art for this series has been stunning throughout. There's illustrations like in the different section breaks as well. So looking forward to reading this. The first book was like a 3.5 for me. It was intriguing, but it didn't quite necessarily live up to the hype in my opinion. So I'm very curious to see where this second one goes. I feel like I haven't seen quite as many people talking about it, but we shall see. And then the Owl Crate books I got. This was really good timing because I had literally just finished Strange the Dreamer, and Muse of Nightmares maybe a week or two prior to the announcement of this. But Owl Crate came out with special editions of the Strange the Dreamer duology, and I love them so much. They both have blue sprayed edges. The Strange the Dreamer one is a slightly kind of more vibrant blue. I'm not sure if it's picking up on camera quite as well, but they have very complementary covers. And this one, they both have artwork on the reverse side of the dust jacket of our characters and a really pretty naked hardback that really leans into the storytelling element that is so important to this duology. And I just think they're so pretty. I do like the Muse of Nightmares US cover. The Strange the Dreamer US hardcover doesn't do a lot for me, but as a book collector, I'm going to hoard them forever. But I am very excited to have a special edition set of these. I just love this story so much. I try not to have duplicates of books now just because I have very limited space, but this quickly became one of my favorite duologies and just books in general ever, so I'm gonna make an exception for this one because I love this story so much. All right, that wraps up the special edition books, and now we're just gonna get into kind of some miscellaneous books that I've picked up over the last few months. Okay, in no particular order, just what's on top, we have Elena Ferrante's My Brilliant Friend. This is book 1 of the Neapolitan novels. I believe there's 4 of them. I'm not much of like a lit fic girly. I typically tend to pick up fantasy and sci-fi, but this one I have heard a lot about. I've heard really good things about. It seems to be like a modern classic. So I'm intrigued. My best friend actually bought this for me at a local bookstore that does like a buy 3, get the 4th free on used paperbacks. So she very kindly got her 4th book for me, and I'm excited to pick this one up. This takes place in Italy and follows 2 lifelong friends. I believe it starts in the 1950s as they grow up together. But yeah, so it's like a family saga thing. You grow up with these characters, you see their friendship evolve from young girls to young women, and I have no idea what the hype about this is all about, but I'm curious to find out. Then I found book 1 of the Murderbot series for a pretty good deal. It was $6 used at a local bookstore of mine. And once again, this has a lot of hype around it, and I'm intrigued. This series follows a security android that has like reprogrammed itself for like independence and has no ambition but to like sit around watching reality TV or something, and they refer to themselves as Murderbot, but not out loud. This is a really popular sci-fi series, and I'm trying to get more into sci-fi, and the first few are little novellas, which feels very approachable to me, and I'm excited. I don't know how I feel about this one being paperback. As I've said before, I do prefer hardcover, and I don't even know if they're all out in paperback. And if you know me, you know I have to have a matching set. So if I do end up loving this, I might end up picking up the series in hardcover and passing this one along to a friend, because I know one who would probably enjoy this, but we shall see. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but I've heard great things about this series, and I love a robot that like has sentience, but like not in a scary way, in a funny way. So I think this is probably a little bit of both. My friend Jose also recently got me Well Traveled by Jen DeLuca. This is the 4th book in the Well Met series by the author, and they're all romance books that center around a Renaissance festival in, I believe, Maryland. And it's just so cute and cozy, and it's one of my like go-to comfort read series. I've reread the first one like a couple of times now just because I love it so much, but the whole series has been a lot of fun. This one follows a lawyer named Lulu and a singer for a band called the Dueling Kilts named Dex, and their unlikely romance. And I just think this was a lot of fun, and thank you, Jose, for getting this one for me as well. Then I picked up the last book in the Regency Fairy Tale series by Olivia Atwater. This is Long Shadow. This follows the daughter of the couple from the first book, their adopted daughter, and this adventure she goes on as she herself is learning to become a sorcerer in Regency England, and how she's kind of an outcast because she grew up in a workhouse, but then she was adopted by the Lord Sorcerer of England, and that really raised her status, but she still feels like she's an outsider. But this book follows her as she's trying to uncover a mystery about these young women dying all of a sudden, and the romance that she finds along the way. And I just love all of these books. Once again, really cozy comfort reads, but they all deal with like different societal issues that were like really prevalent at the time, especially, and like how these characters deal with that. And I just think the balance of romance and like the like tackling serious issues is handled really well in this series, and I'm so sad it's over, but I'm glad to have all 3 of them now. I've also been slowly collecting the new editions of Neil Gaiman's books in paperback, the ones with the kind of watercolory covers, and this one is the Graveyard book. I don't know what this is about, other than a kid who like grows up near or in a graveyard under the watchful eyes of benevolent spirits and a solitary guardian who belongs to neither the world of the living or the dead. I think Neil Gaiman covers like melancholy and death in a very unique way, and I feel like this book's probably gonna bum me out like The Ocean at the End of the Lane did, but I'm very curious. I've been enjoying his shorter books a lot, especially, so I found this one, I think, on Book Outlet for like $3 or $4. So Figured that was a good deal, snatched it up. These normally run for like $15 to $16. So, yeah, happy to add this to my collection. This next one was an incredible find. So if you've been around for any amount of time, you know that I really like the E. Schwab. And I haven't really gotten into her, like, young adult books very much. I think Gallant is the only one that I have read by her. I've read, I think, all of her adult books at this point. But one that I've been holding off on buying because I wanted to get, like, very specific editions was this Savage Songs. I think it's actually called the Monsters of Verity duology. The first one being this Savage Song, and the second one is Our Dark Duet. I feel like there are several editions of these floating around at the moment, but this one is the one that I was really hunting to find. And what's even more amazing about this is that it is a first edition, first printing. It's a first printing. It came with a signed book plate, and it also came with, like, a digitally, reprinted letter by V.E. Schwab. So I don't know if that was like a pre-order incentive when this first came out, but I am so thrilled to have found this. I got it for literally $8, which for a first printing of a V.E. Schwab book, I think is an incredible deal. And the hunt is on for Our Dark Duet that matches this one in hardcover. So I felt like very blessed by the used book gods on this day. I also finally found What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher at my local bookstore, and I found it used for $9. So I have a hard time shelling out $20 for little, like, 100-page, 120-page novellas. I will buy T. Kingfisher full price any day, but my local bookstore was, like, not carrying this one. So when I found it used and discounted, I was thrilled. So I think this is a retelling of I think it's Edgar Allan Poe's story, Fall of the House of Usher, and mushrooms have something to do with it. That's all I know. But again, I'll read anything by T. Kingfisher. I want all of her books. I'm slowly collecting them. So I thought this was a really good find considering this is one of her newer releases. And, God, this cover creeps me out. Fun fact, I have yet to be approved for a single arc from T. Kingfisher on NetGalley. I request every single one and I get denied every time. And my score is good now, so I love T. Kingfisher, but her publishers do not love me. One of my favorite books last year was The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon, and I believe that was her first adult release, but it made me really interested in her backlist, so I found both The Bird and the Blade and Soul Swift used. I found The Bird and the Blade at my local bookstore, and I found this one on Macari, actually, for like $8, so I thought that was a pretty good deal. I think one of these is like a retelling of an opera. I don't know what the other one is, but basically I saw it was Megan Bannon and I was like, sold. I've heard they're both also really sad. Like, one of the things I saw in the reviews for Heart and Mercy was that, like, apparently her books end in a really tragic way, and Heart and Mercy is the only one that hasn't. So I'm a little scared going into these. If any of you have read either of these, please let me know what you thought and which one I should start with. I'm very intrigued. This next book is my last ever book of the month pick. I recently discontinued my subscription. Not for any, like, huge big reason. I tend to pick up a lot of fantasy and they just don't do a lot of fantasy, and if they do, they don't always continue the series, and I like my books to be consistent. Also, as a book collector, I'm much more interested in having, like, real first editions, where Book of the Month is considered a book club edition, and they're just not worth as much as time goes on. They're only ever going to be worth $10 to $15. Don't ever pay more than $10 used for one of those. Just letting you know. I see them in used bookstores all the time and on Macari and stuff for like $15 to $20. Those books are pretty much all still available through Book of the Month, new, for that price. So, I don't know. But I had one more credit to use, and this book seemed really cute, so I typically do buy romances in paperback, but I had to use the credit before I unsubscribed. So I chose Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrane. I believe this is the same author as The Charm Offensive, which I have not read, but I've heard really good things about. This is like a marriage of convenience, but then I fell in love with his sister story. and I'm very intrigued. It's also like Christmassy. I did mean to read this in December, but I had way too much going on and that just was not going to happen. So I'm excited to read this at some point. I might still sneak it in before winter ends, but yeah. I've heard good things about this, so I'm excited to read it and no longer subscribe to Book of the Month. It's a weird feeling, but also freeing. I also recently picked up A Fire Endless by Rebecca Ross. This is the second book in her Elements of Cadence duology, and I read a digital version of this I received through NetGalley in December, and I loved it, and I had the first book, so I wanted to make sure I had the second book as well. This is just a really lovely series that has a lot to do with, like, elemental fae and music and love, and it's like multi-POV, and you follow all these different characters trying to unravel a couple mysteries throughout the duology and like heal their island, and it's so lovely and beautifully written. So very glad to have this to add to my collection, and I strongly recommend it for anybody that likes like very atmospheric and like just beautiful stories. This is another book that I've been wanting to add to my collection for a while and read for a while, but there's so many editions out there and I have never been able to find the one that I wanted at my local bookstore. So I finally caved and got it on Amazon. I prefer hardcovers, and the artwork on these covers are the ones that I also like the best. The paperbacks have various different artworks that I just don't super vibe with. But that is Mistborn, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Mistborn trilogy. I love this artwork. It feels super cool and atmospheric. I have no idea really what the hell is going on, but like it's a vibe, you know? I don't care for the paperback covers very much at all. But yeah, so I want to read Elantris either this month or next month, and then dive into the Mistborn series, where this is the year of Sanderson. I want to be able to read some of the newer Cosmere novels he's coming out with. Tess of the Emerald Sea especially really appeals to me, so I do want to try to sneak in Elantris and the Mistborn trilogy before I read that book. But yeah, so finally adding this one to my collection. Brandon Sanderson hardcovers are so hard to come by. I'm sure they're like in very popular demand, but yeah, as a hardcover girly, it's been frustrating trying to find a good deal on Brandon Sanderson books. Shit, is this signed? Oh my god. Another book that I got on Book Outlet that I just realized is also signed is the second book in Alex E. Harrow's Fractured Fables series, and that is A Mirror Mended. So the first book is a Sleeping Beauty retelling. We follow a modern day girl named Zinnia who has this terminal illness that has made her really connect with the Sleeping Beauty story, because she's also sort of fated to die young, and that first book is kind of like portal fantasy or like parallel universes, and she ends up adventuring through different Sleeping Beauty stories and trying to save like the proto-Auroras in each one. So Zinnia feels compelled to like fix these bad endings in these fairy tales, and it was just a lot of fun. The first one I read in like one sitting. I think given the length of this one, I will be able to do the same for this. If I remember correctly, it was also sapphic, so that's a lot of fun as well, and I'm really looking forward to reading this, and I can't believe I got a signed book for like $5. That's crazy. Another sequel that I picked up from Book Outlet is Seanan McGuire's Seasonal Fears. This is the sequel to Middle Game. I have heard very conflicting things about this one. It's Seanan McGuire, so I feel like I'm predisposed to like it, but from what I've heard, it's just not as strong as Middle Game, which is fine. I've yet to read a Seanan McGuire book I didn't like, but I saw this one for a good deal on Book Outlet. I haven't read Middle Game yet, but I do plan to, so I figured for a few dollars, it was worth adding to the collection, and hopefully I like it. I picked this next book up on Black Friday, actually, because it was 50% off at Books A Million, and that is Little Eve by Catriona Ward. I have also read this one already. It was not as strong, in my opinion, as The Last House on Needless Street, but for 50% off, it was a good purchase, in my opinion, and it was very atmospheric and spooky. If you like cults and kind of like the gothic atmosphere, I definitely recommend picking it up, especially if you did like Last House on Needless Street. I think she has a very interesting way of like teasing out the meat of a story, and that was evident in this one as well. So I had a good time reading this one. And I think I have all of her books now except Last House on Needless Street, because I got that one from the library. I've been hunting for that one used, but haven't found it yet. And then finally, as far as like regular books go, I have Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro, also from Book Outlet. And this is, I've heard described as like Victorian X-Men. These two children with mysterious powers are hunted by a figure of darkness, but they're like recruited by some guy who helps teach them how to like harness their powers. And they like travel around the world, so it goes between like Mississippi, London, and Tokyo. I've heard kind of divided things about this one as well, so I was happy to find it for a good deal on Book Outlet, and I do want to read this one hopefully this year. I feel like there's a lot of hype around it last year, and I want to see if it was worth the hype or the next book comes out, which I'm not sure when that's planned for, but I assume soon. So that wraps up regular novels. The next chunk of this video is going to be all about manga, so if you don't care very much about manga, go ahead and skip to the end, but if you are interested in what I've hauled recently, keep watching. Okay, so more than half of this stack is a single series. I recently picked up the first few volumes of Kami-sama Kiss. If you've seen any of my recent wrap-ups, I've really enjoyed it. It is a shoujo manga that follows a young teenager named Nanami who winds up finding herself to be the Kami-sama, or the land god of this local shrine, and she ends up kind of wrapped up in a lot of supernatural shenanigans as a result, specifically dealing with her Shinshi Tomoe, who is also a kitsune, or a fox spirit. So I loved that series so much. I have slowly been collecting the rest of it. There are 25 volumes total. This is volumes 9 through 25, with the exception of volume 11, because the seller forgot that one in the package it was supposed to come in. So that's on its way, but I have the rest of the series, and I'm very excited to plug my way through it. I'm going to try not to devour it too fast, but I am currently obsessed with it. So my Goodreads is gonna have that I've read like 30 books by the end of the month, specifically because of this series. But yeah, I highly recommend, especially if you like Fruits Basket or Inuyasha. This is really fun and cute, and it's like a shoujo romance with a supernatural paranormal spin. This has been so much fun, so cute, and I'm obsessed with it. Speaking of Fruits Baskets, I also got volumes 5 and 6 of the collector's editions. I think I've read volume 1. I have been slowly watching the new anime, and I really love it. It's so cute. It's like, it's a shoujo romance that follows a teenage girl named Toru, and she also finds herself homeless and ends up moving in with a classmate of hers named Yuki, and she finds out that him and his whole family are cursed with like a Chinese zodiac curse, and when they are hugged by someone of the opposite sex, they turn into the zodiac animal that they represent. So Yuki represents the rat. There's also his cousin Kyo, who represents the extra cursed cat, who didn't get its own year in the Chinese zodiac, and it's so cute, it's so fun. Literally everyone that meets Toru is obsessed with her. Like, she's just the sweetest, softest person. As she gets to know this family and unravel the curse and try to help them break the curse, it's just such a fun adventure, and it's so cute and soft. I love it so much. It's like one of my comfort shows at the moment, and I'm really excited to delve more into the manga. So I think there's like 10 of these total, 10-ish, so I made a good dent in them so far. Then on my friend Stephanie's recommendation, I picked up Kimi ni Todoke, which translates, I believe, from Me to You, just volume 1, because my store did not have volume 2, and I don't know much about this other than, oh wait, no, I do. I think I actually read this like back in the day, but I didn't get very far in it. So our main character, Sawako Kuronuma, is the perfect heroine for a horror movie. Like, apparently she resembles the girl from The Grudge or The Ring, and she gets made fun of because of that, and she friends the most popular boy in class, and she makes enemies because of it, because she's, like, not cool enough to deserve his attention. But apparently this is also really cute. I am not sure how many volumes are out there, but based off of her last recommendation, which was Kami-sama Kiss, I'm sure there's over a dozen, and I'm gonna end up being a psycho and collecting them all. So thanks, Stephanie. These next few volumes are a series that I started back in high school, never really got all the way through. I do remember watching the original anime and not getting super far, which seems to be for the best, because I believe the anime got ahead of the manga and had, like, its own ending, and they ended up redoing the anime at some point. And I haven't watched that one yet either. I do want to, though. But these newer editions in hardcover have recently started coming out, and I just think they're beautiful. And the dragon in me, or maybe the magpie rather, is like, I need them. So I picked up volumes 1 and 2 of Full Metal Alchemist, the Full Metal editions. The first one has Ed, and the second one has Al on it, and I'm just really excited to get back into these. The series is, like, very nostalgic for me. Again, I started it but never finished it, so I'm very curious to see how it ends. And I just think these editions are beautiful. I am realizing that this one is kind of dirty. I will have to see if I can clean that up, but oh well. Very excited to get back into these. This deals a lot with alchemy, as the name suggests. When Edward and Alphonse were young boys, they tried bringing their dead mother back using alchemy, and Ed lost an arm and Al lost his whole body and now lives in an iron suit. It's one of those, like, really well-balanced adventure stories where there's, like, a lot of action and a lot of comedy, but then it's also, like, tragic as hell. So some of the moments that I see shared the most are, like, the saddest moments from this series. So I'm ready to feel the pain again and get back into it. Another, like, sort of bundle is Witch Hat Atelier. I read volume 1 a month or 2 ago, and I thought it was so cute, and for some reason freaked out and bought volumes 2 through 5. Like, I've only read one volume. I try not to buy that many all at once before I've gotten super into a series, but the artwork in the series is absolutely stunning. Like, sometimes you get this really big disparity about, like, or between the covers and then the internal artwork, but with this series, absolutely not. It's all stunning and super detailed. I believe the mangaka used to work for, like, DC and Marvel, so I'm just absolutely amazed at the quality of the artwork in this series, and the story is really good too. We follow a young girl named Coco, and it's widely believed in this world that you have to be born with magic, but through kind of tragic events, Coco finds that magic is something that can be learned, and she becomes apprenticed to a witch and lives in his atelier with other students and learns how to wield magic herself in order to undo something tragic that has happened to her. So I'm really looking forward to see what this series holds. I'm really enjoying it so far. As you can see, I bought 4 more volumes just from having read the one and going, this is amazing. So I hope the quality stays consistent. These next couple I picked up because fellow YouTubers have liked and enjoyed them, and I am intrigued. The first one is the first, like, compendium for the series Orange. I believe it was Gabby Reads that read this recently and was like, this is my new favorite manga ever. And I was instantly intrigued. I think this has, like, a time travel element in it. Yeah, so one day the main character receives a letter from herself from 10 years in the future. At first she writes it off as a prank, but as the letter's predictions come true, one by one, she realizes that the letter might be the real deal. And I think this is also, like, a romance. I'm very intrigued. And I think there's only 3 of these, like, large volumes. So I'm excited to get to it. Hopefully I love it as much as Gabby did, because she speaks very highly about this series. And it seems to be the kind of thing that I would really like. So very excited to get to this one. And then finally, this is the last thing in this entire haul, I picked up volumes 1 and 2 of Moriarty the Patriot. This was read by Katie Colson. She read this and really liked it, and I think the artwork is really cool too. I don't know much about this beyond it's a Sherlock telling of some sort. I don't think it's a straight retelling of, like, Arthur Conan Doyle's actual novels, but it's like inspired by that and it's the characters of that. This has recently entered fully into the public canon, so I'm sure this manga could go off the rails if it wanted to. But obviously this focuses on Sherlock's rival Moriarty rather than Sherlock himself. So beyond that, I'm not sure what these are going to entail other than adventures, and I do like the Sherlock story as a whole, so I think this will be fun. The artwork looks really good, and honestly I was thrilled to find these. I have been looking for them very casually for a while, but it has been really difficult to lock down volumes 1 and 2. I see like 3, 4, 5 around a lot, but volume 1 especially has been impossible to find. And then I went to Newbury Comics after the holidays and they were having like a buy one get one 50% off sale, and they had both 1 and 2, so I snapped them up and I'm excited to get to them. So that wraps up my haul. I think this is the biggest one I've ever done. I might be wrong, but it feels like a lot. Thank you if you're still around from the beginning of this video for sitting through all of that. I hope it was enjoyable. I hope you've got some new books on your radar, perhaps. Let me know if you've read any of these, or if you want me to read any of these in particular, or if you just want to talk about them, let me know. I've only read a handful of them, so please no spoilers, but hype me up for some of these. Which ones should I dive into first? I guarantee Kami-sama Kiss is going to be read pretty quickly, but other than that, I am open to suggestions. So thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to follow my socials down in the links below. Leave a comment, like this video, subscribe to my channel perhaps if you haven't already. And as always, have a lovely day. Bye.